Welcome to Politics 201, Part 3, the making of a politician and understanding basic politics. Now, in this presentation, unlike my previous presentations correlated with politics, I will present to you an imaginary political debate between two candidates, a Republican and an independent, and you would judge the candidates. Now, if you are seeking a political seat, this debate will aid you in the correct procedures and tones to exercise. I am Clifton A. Castile, a former speechwriter and campaign strategist. In New Orleans, I was at ground zero for more than 45 years in politics. Politics is my wheelhouse, and I'm going to make sure politics is your wheelhouse. Now, you may be saying, I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to be a politician. I don't have to know anything about politics. Well, know this. You should be involved in politics, which could affect your life and your future generations to come. The future's now, and you must recognize the ins and outs of basic politics just to survive. So I'm offering you a guiding post so you will not be lost in the forest of political rhetoric. So you will know how to sift through politicians' misleading dogmas and their ambiguous narratives. And you know, because we have 24-hour cable TV, we're overwhelmed with politics. Go to bed. Politics is in there with us. Wake up. Politics is with us. Politics is with us all day long. So, you must consistently examine your moral conscience just to decide which of their narratives are best for you and for your family's future. Today, it is groups against groups, race against race, religion against religion, culture against culture. Politicians and their constituents are trying to steal your ethical views from your developed moral conscience and to replace them with their confusing dogmas. You know, you may say, well, I'll choose a middle ground. I don't need a particular ideology. No, you can't do that. You can't say, I'm going to be over here on certain parameters. I'm going to be over here on other parameters. No, you have to go all the way. They won't let you. And you say, well, I tell you what, I'll find the answers to ideologies that might be correlated with my thoughts on social media. No, you will not. And you can't pray and get the answer. You will have to capitulate to their ideology for generations to come if you don't know basic politics and know how to choose. So, it is detrimental that you understand and can decipher the rhetoric of basic politics and decide. And let me present a few controversial parameters which your moral conscience must decide which is best for your peace of mind and for your family. Crime, basic democracy, gun rights, abortion choice, illegal immigration, restricted voting rights, global climate change and critical race theory, defund the police, abolish public education, Black Lives Matter, and the list goes on and on. So, like it or not, you are forced to be involved in politics just to maintain your moral dignity and your way of life and for your children's future. And please know that this political presentation, I am not trying to persuade you in any manner, i.e., to align yourself with a particular political affiliation or to select a particular ideology or dogma. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to lay out basic politics for you to be cognizant, and you will decide. Now, before the imaginary debate, if you are seeking to be a candidate, know this. Avoid saying, trust me. It means you don't know yourself and you want to convince someone else. You're probably lying. Don't say I believe, say I am certain. Because the public will say, I believe. I want you to be certain. Try inserting plural pronouns into your statements, such as, we'll get the job done. You must know how to employ the unethical tool of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological tool done to an opponent or to a group or to a race of people. The idea is to make them appear to be crazy, benighted, stupid, without Christian values, people who want to destroy America. They hate America. Now, when applying gaslighting, you will use terms such as, who does that? What kind of a person or people or race would undertake those evil values? They're mean-spirited. And you can add a little bandwagon propaganda into your gaslighting. Everybody tells me that I am the best candidate, and they hope I win. Now, these unproven narratives are attached to an opponent or to people who support your opponent. And it is done to make them seem as if they are just evil people. And you want people to think that you are the victim and it's their fault. And it works pretty good. Because you see, gaslighting is very extreme in using in politics. You know, it was dormant for so long, now it's resurfaced. Now, I will place stress on words or statements which will be highly effective, and you can observe how sentences are arranged by candidates. And you can also notice the physical display of the candidates. Now, some of the prose may be disturbing or hypersensitive to some of you. Nonetheless, these statements that appear to be very disturbing are on your dinner table. You have to choose. Okay, now the imaginary debate between Miss Sweet Polly, purebred, a Republican, and Mr. Wholesome Dagwood, an independent. Moderator says, Miss Purebred and Mr. Dagwood, you may ask each 2 short probes, and your retort should not exceed 2 minutes. And please, no interruptions. The best to each of you. Miss Purebred, you may begin. Thank you, moderator. Mr. Dagwood, why are you opposed to legal bonds for criminals who commit violent crimes? Society witnessed 2 to 4 killings every week in this city, and not to mention dozens of violent offenses done daily. Would you please tell the voters why should violent criminals be granted reduced bonds, or in some cases, they're not required to put up a bond at all? Just a little lecture. Last month, there were more than 23 carjackings, 12 sexual assaults, and a laundry list of other violent crimes. Yet, you support those who believe that violent offenders should not post security bonds. Just exhibit sympathy for them so they can go out and murder someone else. Last week, a merchant was carjacked and murdered by 3 teenagers who should have been in school. Where are the parents? And these violent juveniles had been arrested previously, I don't know how many times, for violent crimes. Mr. Dagwood, I suppose you don't care about the crime wave in this city, and you would rather show sympathy to the criminals than show empathy to those who are victims. In. Moderator, your response, Mr. Dagwood. Miss Purebred, that's not my position on violent crime, and you know it. You know you're lying just to obtain votes. Oh, no. You cannot talk to a female like that. Me Too movement and gentlemen don't want you to deface women. So start again, Mr. Dagwood. Miss Purebred, I have never concurred with the omission of security bonds or bail for those who are charged with a violent crime. I am on public record in favor of citation bonds or personal recognizance bond for non-violent offense, not for violent crime. You know, I'm in favor of high bonds being given to repeated violent criminals. And know this about personal recognizance bond. Consider this, and this is what I was trying to get across. There are instances when a subject is in possession of a small amount of marijuana and the subject is charged with the intent to distribute illegal drugs, which is a felony. However, the subject could have been charged with the usage of a illegal drug, which is a misdemeanor. And thus, because this is a felony, the subject bail is extreme. Thus, the subject will be incarcerated until, who knows, until they have a court hearing, maybe months. Meanwhile, the subject has lost his or her employment. That's why I stand on attachment of bonds. High bonds should be, money should be attached to people who commit violent crimes, and it should be a high bond, but not on those who are charged with nonviolent crimes. Moderator, Mr. Dagwood, your question. Ms. Purebred, you call yourself a conservative Christian. Being a Christian has really changed, hasn't it? Because I thought most decent people who are Christians are empathetic and compassionate. Now, the reason I say this is because you have said that you are against affirmative action. And this means equality for all people. On several occasions, you paid to have your pernicious thoughts published in a local newspaper. Now, I'm going to read just a few of your rebuking thoughts. Quote, if people of color do not possess the intelligence to qualify for certain employment, then they should not be employed. Unquote. Here's another one of your demeaning quotes. American taxpayers should not fund universities who discriminate against qualified white people in lieu of unqualified minorities for admission and also for hiring. It is a proven fact that black people come up short on standardized test scores compared to white people. Unquote. Ms. Purebred, we all know that no company would lose money by hiring unqualified people just to satisfy affirmative action. You know this. And undoubtedly, your thoughts are in contrast to the ruling by the Supreme Court, which vehemently states that affirmative action may be applied in certain situations and not be discriminatory to white people. Unfortunately, though, your thoughts come directly from your heart. And you know what? You expect, Ms. Purebred, for the voters to give you a pass. I don't think they should. Now, Ms. Purebred is in a terrible mess. Can't she come out of it? Her people should have prepared her for this. They knew this was going to surface. You think she can take ownership of her immoral action and prevail? We'll see. Moderator, Ms. Purebred, your retort. Let me address the latter part of your retort first, Mr. Dagwood. Yes, what I said was hateful and demeaning to black people. I thought my behavior would win me friends. You see, I was not popular or happy. And so I said, well, if I make demeaning statements about black people, it'll make me feel superior and I'll be happy. However, today I am more empathetic towards people who do not resemble me. I realize that many of these ethical citizens have not had as many privileges as me. People who are faced with astronomical challenges, mostly due to societal indifference. But let me add this ethical affirmation, which is so fruitful. I have it on my wall in my office, and that is this. The way in which we as a society see people will be the way we will treat them. And eventually it will be who they will become, who they will be. Now, to the second question, Mr. Dagwood. Yes, I am opposed to affirmative action in its present state. Racial discrimination was wrong yesterday. It is blatantly wrong today, and discrimination will be unethical tomorrow. No race or people or gender should be given special preferences, as were the case centuries ago. On the other hand, it is unfair to penalize people today who are not guilty of those crimes of discriminating against people. Yes, I do realize there's some discrimination going on today, but it's not their fault, and they should not have to pay. But let me divulge this factoid to you, Mr. Dagwood. According to the government, white people by 20-1 enjoy the fruits of affirmative action compared to the black population, i.e., white women open businesses through the SBA program, and white women procure grants for higher education in greater numbers than the black population. And know this, people from other countries who are granted citizenship actually profit from affirmative action more than American-born minorities. You see, affirmative action has done little to eradicate the tentacles of poverty for black people. We need to provide better opportunities for people of color. What do you think? Moderator, Ms. Purebred, your turn to ask Mr. Dagwood a query. Mr. Dagwood, why have you refused to take a position on abortion? When will you tell the voters, the people out there, whether you are against or for abortion? Let me help you, Mr. Dagwood. The United States Supreme Court says that abortion is a sin and should be abolished without conditions. Christians know this, and I know it. I'm a Christian. We know that abortion is murder. It's a sin against God. You should know that, Mr. Dagwood. Now is your opportunity to tell the voters your position on abortion. Oh, Mr. Dagwood is in a world of trouble. Oh, this subject is the most controversial subject we have ever faced. How can he get out of this? Moderator, your response, Mr. Dagwood. It's true. I have not taken a position on abortion for the ethical reasons that termination should be a decision of a pregnant woman. Ms. Purebred, it is heartless and selfish for society to make the decision for a woman, most noticeably men. Why should society ask a woman, in many cases it will be an adolescent, to carry her pregnancy to full term when she was raped or health issues, or was impregnated because of incest, or perhaps the person does not want the pregnancy? And know this much, black women, even with medical coverage, die during childbirth or immediately after childbirth, in greater numbers than their counterparts, white women who may not even have health coverage. And to ask these black women to risk their lives with a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy, is crazy. It's barbaric. And if a woman is forced to remain with her pregnancy, chances are she will not receive quality prenatal care. The government doesn't give it to them. And you see, prenatal care is so significant for the well-being of a child. Thus, this child will be born prematurely and with a host of physical, emotional, and cognitive challenges. I'm talking about asthma is the number one physical problem, and they'll have cognitive problems. They can't concentrate. They can't learn in school. And we know this. Say by the age of 15, they'll drop out of school because they couldn't learn. And we all know what's going to happen then. Later on, we'll hear about it. And note this. If the government would provide some type of free contraceptives for those who are not able to afford to pay for them, then the situation of pregnancy and abortion would not be an emotional issue. It will not even be on the table because pregnancy would be reduced. You know, I stand by my non-decision on termination, and I ask that the voters understand my position. And, wow, I don't know if he got out of that. Moderator, Mr. Dagwood, your turn to ask Ms. Purebred a probe. Ms. Purebred, You have received money from an action PAC committee known as AFT, Abolish Fraudulent Voting. The main idea of this organization is to change our present legal voting system. This organization, AFT, has lobbied the state legislators to eliminate early mail voting and to remove mailboxes for drop-off voting, their ballots, which are mostly located in low-income section of the city. Now, if both bills are passed, it will take voters back to the pre-civil rights era. Last year, this organization that you align yourself with, Ms. Purebred, decided that the city council should close several voting precincts where people of color cast their votes. And they were successful. The government said, the city government said, that's okay. You know, people were forced to try and find means of transportation to other distant precincts where they were forced to stand in line just to vote for 14 to maybe 20 hours just to cast their legal votes. Another vicious goal of your organization is this: want to reduce voting on Sundays down from 12 hours to 4 hours on Sunday. You know, there's never been evidence of significant voting fraud, and you know this much, but we know why you align yourself with them. In moderator, Ms. Purebred, you may respond. Thank you. Mr. Dagwood, I have never opposed legal voting. The organization you're referring to has donated money to my campaign. Now, it is a fact that mail-in voting has been proven to be fraudulent in many cases. Deceased voters cast their votes. Now, as for using drop boxes, people are not using them, and the city would save money if they were eliminated. These minor changes would not significantly affect black voters. Yes, 1 or 2 voting polls were closed because voters' turnout was very minimum. So why keep them open? I, like all citizens, no matter their political affiliation, ask that every legal vote count, but not fraudulent votes. But Mr. Dagwood, I gotta say this to you. Since you are labeling me, the voters would like to know why you personally chose to support critical race theory, or CRT, to be forced on our children's minds, our young minds. You want them to feel guilty. That's the objective for something that they didn't do. You want them to feel guilty about slavery. That's not right. In moderator, Ms. Purebred, you know you're out of order. The rules were only 2 probes and each must carry one main idea. Mr. Dagwood, you may dismiss Ms. Purebred's last statement. No. That's okay. I'll answer. I will give Ms. Purebred a brief statement. Yes, I'm on the record for endorsing critical race theory, but CRT would not be necessary. It will not be on teachers' desks if this school board had not demanded that publishers of history books reduce the episode of slavery from 1 chapter to 2 pages. And the civil rights struggle is only 1 page. That's not fair. The real history of slavery should be presented to high school students and to certify what black people are going through today. And maybe they can make choices for themselves. In moderator says this: thanks to each of you for a most informative debate. Now, you please tell me who won the debate. Please, would you like to be a politician? No. Maybe your ideologies would be better, but at least you now have a feel for politics. You understand the basic politics, the dogmas, the ideologies. And now you can do what is necessary. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation on politics.